The sea crashes and churns. The skies pour a ceaseless rain. The ocean is forever, deep and permanent, like ink. A deep rumble penetrates the infinity of the ocean. A giant living wave rises so high that even the sky becomes submerged. Only the water exists, the stunning immeasurable depths. And then, bursting to the surface in a spray of white foam, is a small sailboat, headed by a man gripping the sails, gripping the wind, flying forward on the surf. A large rolling wave of scales and claws and snapping grinding teeth goes rippling past. The man cuts quick and breaks across to the other side as the massive wave, the giant living current of death, surfaces and crashes down where he was but is not now. The little ship hurtles on. The sailor shreds and slides from wave to wave. He snatches up a harpoon gun. Our view shifts to high above and in front, angle slightly cocked to the side. The beast of the ocean surfaces again, like a giant rising serpent. The sailor fires. The bolt flies. A rope flies out behind it. It sticks into the beast. The buoy it's connected to flies from the boat. He shoots again. Another bolt. Another line. Another buoy. Another shot. Again and again and again. The creature dives. The buoys offer no resistance and disappear down with it. We see from directly in front of the boat. The sailor careens and skips along the waves. The snaking back of the beast appears behind him, then surfaces to his right. The buoys burst from the water alongside. The sailor draws his pistol and fires. A buoy explodes in a hail of fire and shrapnel. He fires twice more and 2 more buoys go up. Through the fog and the sheets of rain, a large ship appears. The sailor races alongside the beast. A buoy hung up below somewhere breaks free, rushes upwards and pummels the underside of the little sailboat. The man rights the boat, but the line is caught. The explosive buoy is wrapped around the rudder of his ship, the other end harpooned to the beast. The creature breaks the ocean and rises. The man hangs on as his ship is lifted from the water. We look straight down at him, the wind and the rain whipping his little boat around on the end of the rope. The creature opens one of its many mouths and roars, lunges with all the weight of the world to devour the tiny man. He pulls back the hammer on his pistol and fires at the hung-up buoy. It explodes in a tremendous blast in the face of the demon, blows the little sailboat to splinters and sends the man flying. He falls for an entire lifetime before hitting the water, the muffle of water in his ears. Disoriented, but he follows the bubbles upwards, breaks the surface and starts off towards the big ship, dead still in the water, without even a sail. The flaming wreckage of his little sailboat starts to rain down. He strokes and kicks. A wave begins to well up behind him. He reaches the boat, scrambles up the side and drops onto the deck, just as the monster with 1,000,000 mouths rises over him. He pulls a bundle of explosives from his coat. He spins around to face the destruction of all humanity and fires his pistol to light the fuse, but a wash overtakes him. The fuse goes out. But the wash of water is not followed by the jaws of the monster. Instead, it dives back down. The vibration in the air from its screams dies down to a rumble in the depths, and the ship floats high upon a wave the size of 6 oceans. The man picks himself up and wrings himself dry as the ship creaks and rocks. A different man, the builder of the ship, runs out on deck with shock in his eyes. We see from the sailor's hip as he draws his gun. The shipbuilder stops short. "Ahoy, brother! I mean you no harm. You are welcome here." The man holsters his gun but keeps his distance. "My eyes scarcely believe what I'm seeing. Another survivor." "Where are the others?" "Others," he says with dismay, shakes his head. "You got this big fucking boat, and you didn't pick anybody up when it started to flood?" The shipbuilder's face slowly softens with a kind of joy, until his whole face is fat and round and harmonious. "I will show you the others." The 2 men walk side by side through a great cramped zoo, an explosion of colors and stripes and spots, trunks and tails and scales and feathers, On the right, animals. On the left, animals. Pairs side by side in their pens. The sailor studies the unnatural order of things. 2 of every creature. 1 male, 1 female. I'd say you were out of your fucking mind if I didn't face that demon out there. It is to cleanse the earth, where the flood has only lifted the dirt from its pores. It's devouring the earth. It is God's will that the earth shall start anew. Well, he got one thing wrong, God. Unless my eyes deceive me. Looking the shipbuilder up and down. God has a plan for me. Walking through the animal pens, the rows of colorful beasts. I do not know what his plan for you is, but keep your heart open. Be ready to heed his wisdom when he calls. I'll be listening carefully. The shipbuilder closes his eyes and crosses himself. They stand a long time beneath a large overhanging tree. Where's the woman? We gaze upon the woman in the center of the room under candlelight. The woman is beautiful. She is beyond description. She is a princess bathed in heavenly light, a virgin in the most delicious way, obviously not one, yet so delectable and fresh you yearn to be near her just to breathe the scent of her skin. She is a light that seems to glow without shadow. Lady Zamara, the shipbuilder bows before her. The Devourer is near. The sailor stands on the far side of the room. We see him in the foreground, chiseled out by candlelight and shadow, back to us. He beats some water out of his hat. It takes us on the current. It will not cease until it has devoured the last man. The shipbuilder slowly straightens from his bow. The seas will not fall until there are only 2. The shipbuilder is before a great altar praying. We see close, the light casting shadows from the lines of his face. We see from behind him just how great the shrine is, twice his height, carved wood, full of icons. I have done your bidding, O Lord. Deliver me from this flood as you have promised. I have been your servant. I have worked hard, harder than any other man. You have seen. My hands have suffered. My back has suffered. My soul has suffered. I have never touched Zamara. I remain faithful to you until the sunshine, until the birds sing through at the parting of the clouds. The sailor stands on deck, 1 foot leaning against the rail, looking out into the sea. The rain beats down on his hat and drips off to one side. We see out from under the cover of a doorway leading further into the ship, over the shoulder of the woman, watching the sailor. Now we see the sailor's face, over his shoulder to the woman, shining from the darkness of the inner ship. You, she calls. He turns, slowly approaches out of the rain. We see from the side, the 2 facing each other, her clean and glowing, him dark and battered by the rain, weathered by the elements and the battle. Lady Zamara. He takes off his hat in the rain to bow. She inspects him. You're filthy. Why do you insist on staying out in the rain? He turns to the sea. I say, should we hunt the beast, or fight amongst ourselves? She snickers. Perhaps you should pray. She extends her hand under the cover of his hat brim to stay dry, cradles his chin in her hand and wipes the mud and salt away just below his lip. No god orchestrated this madness, and this vessel seems protected by some kind of magic, but the demon will not be satiated by one more man. You are running to your death. Shall I run the other way? Zamara straightens and fidgets daintily with her hands to her chest. You must eat if you wish to undertake any such task. Yes. Bathe. Comb your hair. Take particular care in scrubbing your hands and nails. Then meet me in the kitchen. The sailor sits at a wooden table with a bowl of fruit at the center. Zamara is stirring a pot of soup over the fire. We see the pot in the foreground, her using 2 hands to stir with a big wooden spoon, the shadows of the kitchen space, the sailor over her shoulder at the table, facing to the side, sitting straight, waiting. She sets a bowl in front of him. He eats. She sits on the table beside his food, her legs flash supple and smooth. The sailor looks only at his meal, eating at a steady pace. "Do you like it?" she asks, crossing her legs. "Yes, thank you." "We must save the meat for the animals. Some of them won't eat anything else, but we make broth with the bones." Her robe splits down the middle, high up across her thighs. "I can taste it." "We have plenty of fruit," she says, taking a handful of berries from the bowl at the center of the table. "There is soil beneath the deck. When the seas fall, this ship will crash. The animals will run free, and the tree's roots will reach the earth again." The sailor stares at the fruit. Zamara cradles his chin in her hand, gently tugs his lips apart, and places a berry in his mouth. "It is sweet," she tells him. He chews. She feeds him berries and slices of melons and bananas and peaches. "Eat," she says. "The fruit has already been taken from the tree. It will only go to spoil." Her fingers to his mouth, his tongue flicking at the food. She brings her fingers to his lips without any fruit. He tastes her skin instead. She stops him, runs her fingertips across his lips, pinches and tugs slightly, looks at him as she licks the sweetness off her fingers. She leans into him and slips her robe off one shoulder. Her breasts spill out into his face. She puts her hands in his hair and guides his lips to her nipple. He grabs her at the hips and sucks rough and hard. She takes his hands and places them on her knees, slowly letting him climb up her thighs. "Lady Zamara?" From over the shoulder of the shipbuilder, we see Zamara from behind, sitting on the table. She slowly turns to look back over her bare shoulder, tidies her robe with a confident nonchalance, and as she moves from off the table, we see the sailor, face sticky and wet with colorful fruit juice. Is our guest enjoying the fruits of the Lord's garden?" "Yes." Zamara begins to stride out of the room past the shipbuilder, head held high, barely noticing him. "Lady Zamara," he tries to begin. "Have you finished feeding the animals?" she says. "No, I was just going to the supplies to ready their meals." "Our guest says he'll help you. From what we discussed, he seems quite the animal lover." Samara continues away. We hear her footsteps disappear into the dark corridors of the ship. The shipbuilder turns to the sailor, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. A soft, pale hand. Thin, long fingers stroke the muzzle of a zebra. It snorts and dips its head. The men hurl huge chunks of meat at the hungry animals. They tear and rip at the flesh. Scaly beasts, hairy beasts, horned and shelled and feathered and trunked and winged. Zamara kneels by the head of a lion. She scratches and strokes the animal's ear. It purrs and growls and melts under her touch. She speaks to the animals, the shipbuilder tells the sailor. They sense her soul is gentle and pure. She is both their mother and their cub. Zamara kisses the nose of the beast. She rubs her cheek against the soft short hair on its cheek. That is why God chose her. The beast rubs its face and whiskers against her and nearly lifts her off the ground. The sailor says nothing and doesn't look at the woman. She wanders off, and the animals all moo and purr and snort as she passes. The shipbuilder watches her, smiles at her beautiful body and flowing movements, proud and embarrassed, heart pierced by the dagger of her charms, the slinky poison of her hips. She is a good woman, a farm maid. She never had much, but she worked hard, was kind to others. God is rewarding her. The sailor looks at the woman, the slow sway in her walk. The animals stamp and nod. She touches them like a miracle, like a symbiotic creature. The shipbuilder giggles. The sound echoes slightly. He turns to the sailor with a secret grin. The meat is dried and salted. You can have a little bite. It's safe. And it's tender, having a bite. A big tiger won't notice a little bite. The sailor looks at the salted hunk of meat in his hand and takes a bite, chewing slow and vigorous. "Don't tell Zamara," the shipbuilder giggles mischievously. The sailor looks down the hall to the woman still walking away. She grabs the large tooth of a big cat and playfully twists its head to the side. The creature shakes and snorts and doesn't complain. The shipbuilder is kneeling down praying, eyes closed, hands together and pressed to his forehead, back to the bed. Over his shoulder is Zamara laying on her side facing him, looking through him, robe half open. He comes to the bed and she rolls onto her back and spreads her robe, bearing her wanting body across the bed. "Zamara," he tries to cover her up, but she wraps him in her robe and they wrestle around together with her naked body until he manages to get out of her grip, breathing hard and smoothing out his hair. She collapses and lies across the bed, as if both dead and in great despair. We see from the edge of the bed, her face turned to the side, the deep oceanic eyes, her arm hanging, her hand limp, her breast slumping slightly to the side, lying in the flowery pattern of her robe spread across the dark red sheets. The shipbuilder gets under the sheets on the other side of the bed and gets comfortable. She lies unmoving. The sailor is back out in the rain, pacing up and down the deck. He feels a rumble up through his boots and hurries. He starts to run. The monster lets out a vibrating screech from below. The ocean rises. The rain pours. The world groans. A hump surfaces, mouths hissing. A wave splashes the deck. He sprints around the bow, chasing the demon. He crashes into a body and they fall to the ground. He pins their wrists and presses his body heavy against them, wary of an attack. She groans and fights his grip with indignation. Zamara. They face each other, a small respite from the rain beneath his hat. She twists and arches her body to get him off. He plunges his face between her breasts. She pushes and pulls against his grip, shoves her hips against his weight. He kisses and bites her neck and chest. He grabs her legs and runs his hands up and down and between and around. She reaches into his pants and tugs him hard. All is wet from the rain. He penetrates her, fucks her savagely in the downpour, devouring her flesh like a delicious fruit, her head thrown back, rain splashing into her mouth and nose, screaming and moaning and coming, all washed away in the roaring, droning storm. The shipbuilder tosses in bed, stretches but keeps his eyes closed and snuggles up again. You can't tell the morning, but the birds still begin their chirping as if it is. They caw and call and squawk, heads craned, eyes bulging, wishing the sun in the morning again. A slick coat whops through the air and lands on him. He jerks and opens his eyes, bolts up straight as a rifle lands across his chest. We see from over his shoulder, sitting up in bed, Zamara standing at the foot of the bed, radiant, in a gown like water, like rain washing over her luscious body. "You and the sailor shall hunt the Devourer." "What?" She doesn't repeat herself. "But that is not God's plan." "If I understand God's plan, there are two men." "The Devourer is after that sailor, not me," pointing and raising his voice. "God has chosen me. I have done his work." "Then have faith, shipbuilder. God will thus protect you." Turning and pacing away, her dress flows, vaguely transparent. The shipbuilder sits up straight and examines the gun. On deck, the sailor lowers a small sailboat into the water. The shipbuilder looks off into the ocean. "The rains have abated," the builder says. 7 days of rain, just as he said." The sailor looks off. He's not sure if he can see a mile or the edge of the world. They head off into the ocean. The shipbuilder watches his ship, smaller and smaller, behind them. The sailor stands and steers and leans the boat through the wind and the waves. The builder cranes his head, sees something rising in the distance, a wave like the whole world. "What's that?" "It's just a wave." We'll ride it up. The little sailboat hits the wave like a bird angling its wings as it hits the wind. They propel upwards. The builder hangs on and clenches his teeth. Now lean into it over the lip so we don't catch air. They reach the crest of the big humping wave and launch into the air, hang, fall, and crash back down against the water. The sailor just rides it out. The builder bangs around and holds on for dear life, sits up trying to reorient himself. The wind dies out. They hit a lull in the valley after the wave. The builder turns back and can no longer see his ship. When he turns back again, there's a gun shoved up under his nose. He reaches for his own gun, but the sailor puts his foot on it. That's what you brought your rifle for? No, for the Devourer. The sailor keeps his gun in his face, studying him, then backs off and holsters his gun. Save your ammo. He kneels and dips his fingers into the water. They wait for what seems like an eternity. The waters are so still and dark and green, it's like sitting in a reflection of the world, and through the sheen into the watery darkness swims all the death and magic and dreams. The shipbuilder looks around, sees the lives of the people he knew, the town and the streets he lived, the pets and cows and chickens they had, the girl he took into the pasture over the hill, and they touched and fingered and jerked, and one day she got up on him and rode him, and it was warm, and she grinded her big powerful body, and he came into her ultimate core, and he thought he really loved her, and she squatted behind the tree and giggled and queefed out the mess. But God had spared him. He had worked hard for God. His sins were forgiven. He is to be rewarded as the patriarch of the new earth. Truly miraculous it is. God is testing him with Zamara. Through Zamara, he will be strong and he will be rewarded. God stands watch over his body and soul. The sailor turns to meet eyes with them, and the builder's thoughts go quiet. The sailor removes his fingers from the water and grabs the reins of the boat. He shimmies the craft around to find his footing in the water, a gentle rise far off in the ocean. The builder straightens up to see. Another wave? Stay low and keep your weight centered. The wave rises higher. Don't lean or fight. Just ride it out and I'll control her. The wave rises higher and higher. The little boat starts to tilt towards vertical. The builder holds on and presses himself flat. Higher and higher and higher and higher, until the wave finally breaks. The creature with a million mouths towers over them and into the clouds, a mere twist of its long snaking body, carrying with it civilizations, countrysides, mountains. The little boat twists and turns and finally catches momentum on a wave, races down and away from the monstrosity as it rises further. It becomes a race, like riding down a mountain on a landslide. The little boat rushes down the slope of water to escape being beached. The demon dives and the boat is launched upwards on a giant rising hump. They feel the weight and pressure of gravity pushing them down as they go up. The builder feels safe and balanced enough to shout, "The creature has devoured so much of the earth. It has become the earth." "Not my earth." "What do you plan to do? The beast is impenetrable. You said so yourself. Only God has the power to make it slumber. God shall turn it back to stone." "It's coming back around." The builder turns over his shoulder to see the ocean rising again. The swell thereon is plummeting. He presses himself flat to the boat, looking at his rifle, remembering the sailor putting his filthy foot on it and jamming a gun to his nose. The ocean rises to face them. The water near them drops, sucked down by the pressure of the rising beast, and from the depths comes screaming the wide-open million mouths. The sailor steers and swerves and gains speed, but the devourer is on them. They are upon it. They cannot make ground when the thing is the earth itself. The sailor is struck. He shouts out. His face tightens in pain. He grabs at the knife stuck into his ankle. The shipbuilder jumps up and shoves him off the reins. The sailor stumbles. He catches himself, but half his body is hanging off into the demon's many screaming mouths. The shipbuilder tries to steer and shake him off. He reaches for his rifle. The sailor pulls his gun and shoots first. The bullet snaps a rope and sends the sail tearing off. The boat whips sideways and throws the rifle overboard. The shipbuilder has to hang on or go overboard with it. The sailor can't hang on with just one hand anymore. He falls, spiraling and somersaulting, falling 1,000,000 miles end over end into the million waiting jaws. He steadies himself facing upright in his descent, locks eyes with the shipbuilder, aims his pistol. The shipbuilder ducks back. A shot rings out, but it merely wedges itself into the mast of the sailboat, and the 1,000,000 mouths fold upon each other, rocking the sea, causing a break and crash that buries the little boat. When all is settled, the mast and sail surface. They float away like broken toys. In a plume, the rest of the sailboat surfaces, the builder still clinging to it. He sucks in the deepest, most precious breath of air in his life, chokes and heaves up water. A great expanse of sea, the ship of animals in the distance, the clouds and the fog rolling in and out, a splash and a stroke in the water, another. The shipbuilder comes rowing in, one labored stroke at a time, one labored stroke at a time. Zamora stands in the center of the animal pens. They neigh and prance. The shipbuilder drags himself wet and panting to her. "Lady Zamora," he bows. She pays more attention to the elk, its great antlers spreading like the branches of a tree. "The Devourer has taken the sailor." Her body freezes for just a moment, then carries on. "The storm has stopped. The seas are calm." He stands and removes his hat, tosses his coat to the ground. We look up at them from the coat, then to her face, him over her shoulder, the elk and its great antlers taking up most of the scene. "We are the last two, man and woman." The elk eats unworried from her hand. "I am ready to take you, Lady Zamora." She blinks, turns her attention imperceptibly. She finishes feeding the creature, pets its snout, reaches up and bumps her hand through its mighty antlers. "I'm so exhausted from taking care of the animals. Perhaps when the sunlight comes again, I'll be in a better mood." She turns and walks past without noticing him. He watches her, stunned, but he won't let her go. Not this time. He has done what he promised. He has suffered greatly. He has wept and hurt. He has risked and overcome. He is ready to be in the arms of God. "Lady Zamora!" He chases after her and grabs her shoulder. At once, the animals all bark and stamp and snap. We look down the long, dim hallway, the woman tall and straight in the center, the man reaching and stooped, the beasts all leaning out from their pens, thrashing, feathers flying, jaws bearing teeth. She dips her chin to look at his hand on her. He releases her at once. She continues down the hall. The animals continue to screech and shout. Darkness, darkness and groans, deep, cavernous groans, like listening to the world twisted in half by the hands of God, rocks tying themselves into knots, the grinding and groaning again, and this time from the source of the sound emanates a light, a heat, a frictionous burning combustion. The dark formless muck of the foreground shifts and limbs flail. A voice gasps for air and then is drowned out by the grinding. The sailor sits up and faces the sound, feels the sound, exists within the sound, is hit with a wave of water gushing in from the quake. He gets up and starts walking. The sound of the world comes at intervals. The walls shake, the skies shake, debris tumbles. The light burns brighter and hotter. The world comes into view, red and orange, trees, rolling hills, architecture and materials he doesn't even recognize. They could be lands from across the ocean he's never seen. They could be all the civilizations of the universe, slowly being ground to dust and pressed to stone. The shipbuilder is going from pen to pen, feeding the animals. He's a little shy, pulls his hand back prematurely, doesn't get too close. He hears a disturbed whinny and stamp, a pen door rattling, short, coarse breaths. Cautiously, he follows the sound. We follow behind him and turn into the horse stable, and thrown across a bale of hay is a yellow dress, and across the door of the pen is a woman's brassiere and stockings. We cannot see the creature inside the pen, but it huffs and whinnies and stamps and shuffles. The shipbuilder approaches slowly, opens the pen door. Zamara's pale luminant body lies naked across the back of a zebra, resting her head along its neck. We see as the shipbuilder sees, her eyes peering around the neck of the beast, her leg dangling and swinging off the side. "When I was a girl on the farm, we had many different animals, but my closest friends were the horses and the cats." The builder looks down at the stamping restless zebra and its massive dripping erection. "Do you know why?" she asks, as we move above and behind Zamara, her ass perched on the hump of the zebra, eyes turned to the side, the builder staring down at the horse's cock. "I treated all the animals as my best friends, but the horses and the cats, they showed me a special kind of affection that the other animals, and even humans, would not. Do you know that strange, blind, ignorant love that finds its partner in the dark?" The builder looks up at her. He wishes to take her in his arms and have her across her own dress in the hay. He answers, "Yes, Lady Zamora." He watches her swing her leg back and forth. She lifts her head and tosses her hair slightly, slides off the back of the horse, lands with a jiggle, steps towards him naked and glowing, running her hand across the muscular flank of the animal. She passes the builder. He reaches for her. She snaps to face him and he stops short. "The Devourer has ceased its search and slowly turns to stone, but at its current rate we will run out of food before it does. I saw the last man fall to the million jaws. The last man has not perished," she says, judging him. "And why do you seem so adamant that your function has been fulfilled? You were to hunt the beast, not the man." The builder looks down at his hands, hangs his head at his scolding. She eyes him with disgust, then tears a piece of meat off the hunk he's carrying. She puts it in her mouth and chews slowly, towering over him, bending him to his shame. Then she turns and walks away, forgetting her clothes, as the animals begin to breathe as one in a low, building growl. The light is brighter, hotter. The sailor has shed his jacket and shirt. A deer walks out from behind a tree. They meet eyes. It bounds off and away. A bear stands on its hind legs watching him. Snakes hang from the trees. Everywhere bugs. Closer and closer to the light. He begins to see humans. He walks past them, says nothing. They say nothing to him. We see from out over the molten core of time and space, the blazing forge of creation, the epicenter of the great world-eating demon. Humans shield their eyes. Insects fly too close, pop and sizzle into nothing. The world grinds and eats up more of the shore before the fire. The people scramble back a ways more. The sailor walks closer, shielding his eyes like the others. He looks around at the sick faces. They just look back, empty, sullen, beaten. A man comes running and screaming towards the blaze. He reaches the shore. He throws himself at full volume into the grinding core, scorches into steam head first all the way down to his feet. His shoes skip a few times before they burn and crisp into the same nothing. The sailor looks around at the faces again. This time they don't look back. He draws his gun and the humans all scatter. He fires all 6 shots into the core. The bullets zing and skip off with a spark and disappear in a white flash. He hurls the gun in too. then stands there on the shore as the world lurches forward again. The others run back up past the sailor, who does not flinch. The sailor is now marching in the opposite direction, away from the core. A wave of water rushes in. He braces himself. Another comes and washes him back. He hurries to make up the ground. The world grinds and the glow grows fainter behind him. Above the water, from across the great green sea, the Devourer has found a resting place with its head above the surface. Millions and millions of mouths. The burning groan sounds out like brass. The calm sheen water in the distance trembles. The sailor now faces a million rows of teeth. From behind his dark figure we see the teeth. Fields of teeth. Further and still teeth. A great cavernous gully of teeth sloshing with blood and seawater. We watch from behind the sailor, dwarfed by the valley of teeth, as another groan shakes the world and another burst of water splashes in. The animals are in an uncontrollable ruckus, cawing and screeching and screaming. The shipbuilder hurls their food at them from afar. They shriek and spit and throw feces and chewed food back at him. He crosses himself. He mumbles and crosses himself and keeps his head down, talking to himself, praying, eventually shouting his prayers at the din of animals, hollering, calling out to God. The sailor drags a flat sheet of rock to the edge of the Valley of Teeth. A slope angles downwards. The water fills higher with each grind of the earth. The sailor has his tools, a rock, a log, and a long, sturdy, straight branch. He hurls the branch like a javelin out into the water. He hefts the log and takes his position on the stone, waiting for another shift of the earth. It comes. The rock inches forwards. The sailor shoves off with the end of the log. Another shift and the stone starts off over the edge. Rock squealing against teeth, it begins to slide. The man drops the log, rides atop the stone, holding the log steady alongside. The rock grinds and squeals and spits sparks, but does not visibly weather. The log is being chewed to splinters, shrinking before his eyes. The water is still far off. The log is a quarter gone. He skids to the right, loses control. The log is now out of reach. He spins around and falls to sitting on the rock. Only sheer will and practiced balance save him from being impaled and shredded to a pulp. The water is there. The rock slides underwater, sizzling and steaming. The log hits the water, spins, rocks, and lands flat, tooth-sawed side up. The sailor grabs hold as it floats by and climbs on. He rose from standing with the long branch through the fjords of teeth. Mangled bodies, human and animal, drift past. Another burst of water. The man lies down and wraps his arms around the log, letting the wave wash over him. The wave goes and the log rocks back to the surface. The sailor lurches up for breath, shakes himself, then stands and continues to row. As he journeys the length of the canyon, his oar shrinks smaller and smaller, gnawed away by the teeth at the bottom. Our view is at a slant. The light is sharp and angular. The shipbuilder kneels at his altar. "O Lord, I ask you, what have I done wrong? What have I left to do? Every time you have given me direction, I have followed you, but you have left me, O Lord." The sailor finds himself at the lip of the million mouths, looking up the cliff of jaws to the crashing sea and the blotted sky. Vines and ropes and guts and debris hang from the upper lip. The deep rush of a wave, the sound and the water break the rim, about to crash down on top of him. He leaps to a vine. The water engulfs him in an entire river's worth of rush, and when it's past, he bursts out for breath, and still catching his breath, he begins to climb. "I have done what you've asked. I have resisted Zamora. I have risked myself to the Devourer. And if I was wrong to sacrifice the sailor, Lord, it was Zamora's bidding. She pitted us against one another. The filthy wretch came floating in on the Devourer's bile. He was not part of your plan. I have not mistaken. He is not part of your plan. It was only a test? It was only a test, was it not, O Lord? The sailor ascends hand over hand the distance of the sky to the heavens, the space of 1,000,000 skies. The muscle fibers in his arms flex and bulge like taut ropes. Veins stand out in his shoulders and neck. He climbs the height of the highest skyscraper atop the highest mountain, to the edge of the atmosphere. He crests the upper lip and climbs to solid ground, gazing across a vast scattered wasteland of wrecked ships. If I have failed you, Lord, was there a man who could have done better? Who could destroy the Devourer? Who could satisfy that filthy slut Zamara? And even if there was, could he have built the ship? Could he have herded the animals? Could he have labored and given his body and years? Would he have the strength of faith to follow such a plan? The sailor begins gathering materials. The sky begins to pour. The Devourer is hardening and grinding at shorter and shorter intervals. The sailor gathers all the rope and canvas of all the destroyed ships. He tears the fabric. He ties it off. He ties and entwines it with the rope. Am I to simply wait on your guidance? We are running out of food. It is one thing to ask me to suffer, but can you ask the animals to suffer? And again, Lord, I ask you, what is the significance of Zamara? She is not needed to tend to the animals. She causes them distress. Was there not a better mother for my children than that woman? Has she gone to bed with the sailor? From a low, wide angle, we see the sailor lean back with all his might and hoist a mighty, massive sail of all the sails of humanity. It catches a gust and fills full and proud, hauls the sailor forward. He braces and digs his heels in. He hauls and heaves and climbs further up the slope, tilting the sail to the right angle, the perfect leverage. The groaning, creaking, burning stone of the new world grinds itself to molten dust. The demon too much turned to stone to fully resist, but it is conscious and lets out a hot, vicious roar in protest. The last humans near the core sprint away from the throbbing blaze. Now so dense and hot, it flares and splashes. The sailor pulls with all his might, bellowing with the beast, raising the sail higher, edging the Devourer lower into the water, turning the living, screaming earth. The shipbuilder is praying with open eyes up to the shaking sky. The boat rocks and sways. Water rushes into the Valley of Teeth, fills the fjords, pours through the ruins, upturns goats and sheep. The sailor holds his ground, guides the wind filling the sails with the skill of 1,000,000 miles of wind-traveled seas. The bottom lip dips below the sea line. The creature screams in agony with 1,000,000 mouths. The water rushes and gushes through the world and towards the core. The last humans feel the rumble, know the difference, sense the impending rush about to overtake them and run to find a place to hold on. The wave crashes against the core, hissing and squelching and exploding with the wrath of 1,000,000 dying suns. Clouds of bugs die in a burst. Humans go flying. Trees are uprooted. Humans swim and struggle and scream. The shipbuilder is crying to the skies, "The seas are falling. Praise thee, Lord. Praise thee, Almighty. I knew you would answer my prayers. I knew I was a good man. I knew I had served you well." And the seas do fall. They rush into the 1,000,000 bowels of the Devourer. They boil into steam against the core of the earth. The clouds spread away and the storms lose strength. And the great ship of animals rocks and falls and splashes and crashes against the great form of stone with the 1,000,000 caves and the ruins and the trees and the bears and the bugs and the mountains and the plains. And the shipbuilder lands on his back, his altar upturned, his candles falling and out or going out. He continues to smile and laugh and thank the Lord over the rising clamor of animals, until he can no longer hear himself over the hungry, bellowing craze. The last candle rolls about the room, flares across the lines of his face, and goes out in its own melted wax. and the humans and the corpses come dragging out of the million mouths to dry land, to the wreckage, and the air, and the danger, and the clearing seas, and the birds dancing across the parting skies, the triumph beyond, to bask in the bright tumult of the future. Two house cats chase each other around and behind Zamara's feet. The cats are on alert, electric. She sits on the floor with one leg over the other, leaning back on her hands. A cat leaps across her legs, hides its face behind her foot, wiggles its butt to pounce. She lifts away its hiding place, and both cats look at each other with surprise. One runs and the other pursues. They jump to the dresser and back down and across the bed. They catch up with one another and meow and yowl and roll and scratch in a tornado of cat scrap. One kicks and swipes Samara's leg. She winces. The cats freeze. It starts to show a small mark. Then a second later, a small drop of blood. The cats chase each other away. Then one comes back, purring. It sits close and waits for her to motion it over. She pets it and it rubs its face against her knee. Something stirs just outside the door. The little cat bristles up, growls, then bolts away. Zamara's languid eyes move towards the door. A jaguar and panther slink into the room. From above and behind the bed, we see the two large cats slowly pace to either side of her. From the foot of the bed, we watch them climb up with their front paws onto the bed. The jaguar grabs her by the scruff of her dress, shakes and tosses her around until the dress tears to tatters and she falls naked, tempting, vulnerable, edible onto the bed in a colorful, violent splash of shredded fabric. From outside the door, we see the shadow of a large cat cast across the splintered deck, the predatory hunch of its neck, the powerful stride of its shoulders. The beasts purr and growl and roar. The woman screams over and over as if being mauled. But one can never tell with a lady. You have been listening to The Devourer by Edward Cabras.